Miami going to travel to North Carolina, 7:30 kickoff. This spread sits at -3 in favor of North Carolina. Another basically pick'em game. Your over-under sits at 57. But what the stats are not going to indicate in this game, and I'm going to fly solo for this one, Mike had to bounce out. What the stats are not going to indicate in this game is the emotional wind that came out of the Hurricane Sales last week when in the final minute, 2 minutes, lost a fumble, allowed Georgia Tech to drive the field and find the end zone. And you've got players in tears on the sideline saying, what the F are we doing? Losses are already hard to come back from. Emotional losses are hard to come back from, hard to bounce back from. An emotional loss like that is going to be extremely hard to bounce back from. Now you add the fact that you've got to recover from that and travel to a top 15 team in the country against a Heisman going to be finalist quarterback in Drake May. If he's not a Heisman finalist, he's going to play a long time in the NFL. His stats are not all that great so far in the year, but nonetheless, a really good North Carolina Tar Heel football team. So you've got that, and now you've got a really good opponent, an undefeated opponent in their stadium, 7:30 kickoff, nighttime game, Kenan Memorial Stadium. All 51,000 of them going to be wild, covered in baby blue, shouting Tar Heel born, Tar Heel bred. I'll die, or when I die, I'll be a Tar Heel dead. This is no longer just a basketball school. They're a football school. Mac Brown's taking them new heights. I will say this, as far as this game goes, Mac Brown is known for dropping one a year, maybe two a year that he shouldn't. He had a bad loss to Georgia Tech last year. But here's how I kind of want to look at this. And you guys know this at this point. I don't really believe in transitive property. I don't believe in that. So let me say this. Miami went toe-to-toe at home with Georgia Tech and lost that game again in the final minute. And you only hung 20 on a average Georgia Tech defense. North Carolina's quarterback, he's better than Haynes King. North Carolina's receiving room, it's better than what they got in Atlanta. North Carolina's offensive line, it's better what Georgia Tech has. North Carolina's defense, it's better than what they've got in Atlanta. This is a nightmare scenario for Miami. However, I'll say this. Is this a must-win for Miami? Only in the sense of you better get the heat off of Mario Cristobal's chair. That's why it's a must-win. Because if you lose this game, you're Miami. The U. I mean, think about the players that have come through this program. Ed Reed, Sean Taylor, Ken Dorsey, Clinton Portis, Andre Johnson, DJ Johnson, Jonathan Vilma, Philip Buchanan. The list goes on and on and on. And I name all these guys because they have tremendous pride in the U. And now you're going to travel to North Carolina, a quote, basketball school. This is a nightmare scenario for not only Miami, but for Mario Cristobal. Must win? It is in the sense that you better get the heat off your chair, because again, if you lose this game, man, there's a bad narrative out on you. We saw what Nebraska hiring Scott Frost, the golden child. This is in a sense what Miami has done in the hiring of Mario Cristobal. Now the world has seen the way that whole thing with Nebraska unfolded and their time with Scott Frost, and they're going to say, maybe a Miami man or a Nebraska man can't get it done. Listen, Mario has recruited really well. He's put together quite a staff. But you lost a terrible game last week. You lost a nightmare situation last week. One that I'm going to wonder, did your players recover from it? Did they go party after that game, right? I mean, you're in Miami, right? Coral Gables, Miami. Or were you pissed off breaking glass bottles up against the wall? From what we saw on the television, players in tears on the field, upset. How did practice go? How did preparation go? I just think to get to the previews and prediction, I think that's just too much to overcome. I don't like it. I don't like that scenario. Do I think it's doable for Miami? I do. I do think it's doable. You got the roster. Can you emotionally come back from it? Mario Cristobal, this is not the first time he's had that kind of loss, right? He pulled the same stunt at Oregon, and it cost him against Stanford. Different though. This is your alumni. This is where you graduated from. What about those guys that you played with at Miami? Were they in your inbox? Were they in your emails? What are you doing, bro? Kneel the ball. You know, players are talking about it. What are we doing? Kneel the ball. And I get it. Like, I played this game. You know, you don't, the mentality that you need to have is you don't let one game run into the next. How many times over the Saban era have we talked about, you know, Alabama beating you twice, right? You don't let one week go into the next. This one's going to be near impossible to not allow that to happen. I believe last week is going to play a significant part in Saturday. So with that being said, I'm thinking I'm going to take North Carolina here, man. I think the writing is on the wall. And I think the narrative against Mario Cristobal is going to heat up. I don't think it's going to cost him his job. I think he's going to have some time to turn around his season. I mean, he is going to have to host Clemson after this. So this North Carolina win becomes more desirable. You're going to host Virginia after Clemson, travel to NC State. That's not going to be easy. Travel to Tallahassee, Florida. You're going to host Louisville, an undefeated Louisville that I might add. And then you're going to host or travel to Boston College. So you need this one. But you're not going to get it because it's too fresh off the cuff of that boneheaded loss that you had at home against Georgia Tech, against Haynes King and the rambling wreck of Georgia Tech. Too much to overcome. You had no business losing that game. I'll be the first to tell you, Georgia Tech has improved from last year. I think that they are headed in the right direction. I think they're on the up and up. I think you need, in a year, you need to buy stock in Georgia Tech. But right now, you had no reason losing that. So a lot like I predicted with Auburn and LSU, North Carolina sees blood on your face. Why would they not step on your throat? They have all the tools. They have all the weapons. This Omarion Hampton running back for North Carolina, this dude is for real. No coincidence that almost everybody in the country wanted him coming out of high school, but he stayed local and he chose the Tar Heels. So watch out for him. And again, who's under center? Oh yeah, Drake May. Drake freaking May, who North Carolina is in his bloodline. He's looking at the face of Miami. He goes, I'm about to kick you while you're down. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the Tar Heels to the tune of 35-21. Miami struggles. They find 21, but they can't stop the North Carolina offense. I would even go so far to say 41-21, 45-21. But I'll lowball it a little bit, and I'll say 35-21. Miami at North Carolina, 7:30 kickoff. I'm taking the Tar Heels.
Pandemonium reigns.